In the memo, the language that Pam Bondi used, which was no incriminating client list, that really jumped out to me, actually, because it maybe gives her a little wiggle room between saying that she had a client list and then saying there's no incriminating client list. So I wanted to ask you if maybe that's what's going on here before we get into some of these other details.
I don't know what's going on with her. I believe Dan Bongino's not lying to me. I really do. When Dan Bongino puts his name on something, I don't know Cash as well, but I know Dan. I know him well. We worked together many, many years. He didn't just turn around and start lying. That's not who he is. He's an honest guy, and he takes this role very seriously, and I trust him. And I trust him not to actively mislead me or you. However, Pam Bondi has definitely made multiple inconsistent statements, and I'm sorry, but she does not deserve the benefit of my good opinion, and I'm not prepared to give it to her. She's, yes, on camera saying that clip that Peter Doocy was referencing, where John Roberts asked her, do you have the client list? Like, are you going to release a client list? And she said, yes. He said client list, and she said, yes, it's on my desk right now. So it was not as amorphous as Caroline, to her credit. She's trying to cover for the administration, which is her job, but they put her in a very difficult position. It's not amorphous. It's very clear. She said yes. And here's what happened. What happened was Pam Bondi said that, and then a week later, she said she was going to be releasing some very interesting documents the next day when on Jesse Waters' show, like 6 days after that first hit, he said, hey, what client list is coming out? And she was like, it's going to be getting very interesting, and some interesting Epstein documents are coming out tomorrow. And that is when the influencers, right-wing influencers who had been very good to Trump, who amidst all the deranged media out there, were able to see through the bullshit and reported honestly and helped him a lot, and did not deserve the humiliation that she heaped upon them. It was not through their own doing. She invited them there. I mean, who wouldn't go, right? It's Pam Bondi. Do you want to come meet with the head of the FBI and the vice president for an exclusive Epstein leak? Yeah, yes. Most people in media would say yes to that. So they went, and in the classic line from Animal House, you fucked up. You trusted us. That's what happened. They fucked up because they trusted her. And they were humiliated because she gave them all these binders that read Epstein files, volume 1. And there was nothing new in there. Nothing. There was no scoop. Why would she do that? And it led to, behind the scenes, like all the White House staffers, like the top people in the White House for Trump, distancing themselves from Pam Bondi immediately. Like, we don't know why she did that. And then it came out that they were urging her not to do it. But I don't know what she was up to. She wanted to have some moment where she looked like she was the one. And then she was in trouble. And she knew it. So she said, all right, that's just the first tranche. I'm really pissed off. The FBI is the one who screwed me. They said everything was in there. Okay, like you need to know. You need to know that no lawyer just sloppily calls all these PR people in and says, here are the files, without knowing what's in there. But she wants us to believe she did. Okay, so she either was clueless or she intentionally embarrassed them. I don't know which is better. And then she said, more is coming. More is coming. And we waited and waited and waited. Those people did not get an exclusive to redeem them. And instead, she got caught on camera by James O'Keefe saying, there are thousands and thousands of videos like showing child pornography. And it was like, wait, what? Child pornography? No one's been talking about that. I mean, we know he had like a predilection for very young girls, generally, 17, but the ones looked more like 14, but we hadn't heard like 8. So, what exactly does she mean by child pornography? We don't know. When she found out from James O'Keefe, he was about to drop that on her the next day, she ran to the microphones and on her own was like, I've got all these videos. So it was very clear to me she was trying to make it look like I didn't say anything out of turn to the James O'Keefe operative. I'll say this right on camera. It was just very obvious what she was doing. But it was still a loop because it was like, we're talking about client lists. We're talking about people who Jeffrey Epstein may have blackmailed. How have we taken a loop now over to weird, inappropriate, disgusting pornography? Okay, so to me that already seemed odd and like a slip, but it seemed like perhaps this is where she's going to plant her flag now. Like this is the extra stuff, because either there is extra stuff that she decided she can't show us, or there isn't and there never was, and she was lying when she was like, it's on my desk, and trying to hype the story, hype, whatever your word is. So that's March. She's now switched to like this thing with O'Keefe and on camera about the child pornography, sexual assault material. And the next, so we're waiting in April and May and June, and now here comes July, and we get the drop to Axios, a left-leaning publication.
Right,
that
the
is
opposite
not,
of the influencers.
Yeah, exactly. They're never going to kick the same tires that right-wing influencers, who are the ones who care about the Epstein story, would kick, which they're not dumb. They know that. So they do this late holiday weekend drop through Axios, which is just going to, lick, their boots, saying, thanks so much for this exclusive, which we know is going to get us millions of clicks. And now nobody's talking about it. So and in the memo, we've gone from, I have it, the client list. Yes, the client list. It's on my desk, to no client list and no names. And by the way, at the same time all this was happening, Alina Habba, who was Trump's personal lawyer and at the time in February, counselor to the president, and would become part of the DOJ team working for Bondi within 3 weeks of these comments on Piers Morgan, went on camera to say, these are some very bad people. We've got names. We've got client lists. And the only reason you don't know about it is because there wasn't transparency. That's what Bondi had said too, that this administration before us wasn't transparent. And Alina Habba said, I'm not going to get ahead of letting them have their day in court. I'm going to let the guilt or innocence come out in court. But yeah, people will be held accountable under Cash and Pam Bondi. Okay, so that was all the messaging prior to Sunday night. So my main position here, Emily, is people are right to be skeptical. They have every right to distrust now the messaging because of the way this was handled. But I do see a distinction personally and professionally between what Pam Bondi has said and done and what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have said and done. Because while people want to bring up what Kash and Dan said while they were podcasters and out of the administration, I'm sorry, but it doesn't really reflect anything about what they knew or should know as FBI director and deputy director.
Bondi, for what it's worth, and it's very worth mentioning this, by the way, and Julie K. Brown pointed this out actually back in February when all of this was happening, was the Florida Attorney General during these critical Epstein years. Julie K. Brown said she was Florida's AG 2011 to 2019, a period of time when Epstein's plane records became public, victims' lawsuits were filed, and a lot of new evidence against Epstein surfaced. So questions should be asked about why she didn't take up the case or launch a probe when she was AG in Florida. And Megyn, just to, I think, ask about everything you laid out, it sounds like you don't see a sort of plausible explanation that will satisfy the public for how Bondi has conducted herself since late February.
No.
She either knows or
I don't
she
get
either, there's no good explanation.
Why did she say it's all, why was she leading the media along? The thing that I don't understand, if you want to put total faith in the memo that they leaked to Axios, there's no there. And you may or may not know about me, Emily, but I am the least conspiratorial person you'll ever meet. I believe in almost all of the government lies. I do. I do. So,
oh, that's right. You get 10 boosters.
You're right. No, I did get a booster. One booster, two COVID shots and a booster.
Driving to the drink.
I know. Me too. And now I have an autoimmune issue. Great.
That's right. That's what the tequila's for. I think it is actually a medicinal. We'll have to ask Bobby about that.
Right. Okay. So, but anyway, it's not whatever. I mean, I believe COVID started in a lab and all that. I'm not a complete loon, but I'm just saying I'm not somebody who thinks we didn't have the moon landing or all that stuff. So my point is simply on Epstein, all along, I've been hey, he might have killed himself. He might have, he's facing a lifetime in jail. He's a miserable guy. I don't know if there's going to be client lists or not. I'm not sure. So my point in raising this is for me to be looking at her saying, I don't believe you is telling. It's telling even in my own heart, because I am trying to go down the non-conspiratorial route to say, okay, there are no client lists. It was just Jeffrey Epstein and his own perversions. I'm just going to forget all the stuff about the planes and the islands and all that. Okay, I'm just going to say, I know Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of trafficking girls to Jeffrey. That is true. There was no evidence in that trial she was trafficking them to, all the other names that we've heard or any others that we haven't. So, okay, I'm going down the lane with you. what then makes Pam Bondi come out and do all those things like, I've got juicy stuff is basically what she was saying, and get the influencers there to try to look like it's shit's going down, you know, like you're going to get the truth from us, and then like doubling and tripling down. And then why did she switch it to child pornography, which I do believe there is. I believe the FBI does have that of Jeffrey Epstein. But to me, I guess that was probably her out, because now she's starting to realize either she is caught that she doesn't have the other stuff, or someone has slapped her hand to say, you can't release that. And so now she's got to pivot to something entirely, it's not off topic, but it's not what was being promised. Client lists and blackmail material were what we thought. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein's sick, disgusting, felonious enjoyment of child sexual assault material is disgusting and horrific, but it's a pivot away from where we were going on the story and what she was promising. So I don't know. I wish I had all the answers. All I know is it doesn't make sense. And as my mentor, Judge Judy, says, if it doesn't make sense, it isn't true.